Hey everybody, welcome to the World of Dragons podcast, the podcast where a dragon and his rider get together to discover, review, and discuss dragon-centric media and literature, including but not limited to books, movies, shows, and games to help you dragon fans find the next World of Dragons you wish to visit. I'm your host Ray. It has been far too long. I'm happy to be here again. With me here is my writer.
Hello, it's Bantam.
Yeah,
was,
so
was that not good
that
enough?
no, it's just I like brain farted because that almost sounded like you were doing a Borat impression, and I was so confused. But yeah, sorry, it's been a while since the last episode. This episode we are reviewing the book series. We're reviewing the book Claws Out. The first book is called Claws Out. So the series is called Dragon Sorcerer. The first book is called Claws Out. By... Shit, I should have had this open. I have everything else open and not the thing we're doing today. By Sean Oswald. Okay. The reason it took so long to get this episode out is because I decided to read books 2, 3, and 4 ahead of Bantam so that I could, later on in the episode, be able to let you readers know if the book stays true to its intentions, let's say, since this is a dragon shifter, which we normally frown upon very, very heavily.
Yeah, one of the
Book
things that
5... You go ahead.
one of the things that Ray wants to avoid, which we were talking with our audience before recording, was that you could start book 1 and be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm super invested in these characters and the setting," and then book 3 or 4 or something completely flips the script and completely ruins the series for you. And it's best to know going into a series whether or not it's going to betray you, rather than get invested and find out, "Oh my gosh, everything I loved about this book is now
Yeah.
gone."
Especially when it's a, quote, problematic genre like Dragon Shifters. It's problematic to people who like dragons, right? Because it's like, what's the point? You're hiding your dragon. He's human 95% of the time, right? So it's like, I wanted to like read ahead and make sure like, is he gonna give up his dragonhood to be a human forever? Because he discovers that they're not that bad and they actually like enjoy life better and some bullshit like that, right? So, uh, after the end credits, if you stick around, I will basically drop a few assurances or content warnings for books 2, 3, and 4 to make sure there's no nasty surprises for you guys moving forward. Book 5 is also out, but I haven't read that one yet because its audiobook doesn't come out until like June. And just as we've said many times before, I just have like 10 hours of audio time to every 1 hour of reading time I have, so I have to be a bit more, I can't think of the word, protective of my physical book reading time, because there's a lot of stuff that has not been audio transcribed yet, and so I gotta, like, poke into the stuff like The Last Monster on Earth, or Scales of Fate, or whatever, right? But yeah, so, welcome back, everyone. Happy to be here. It's been, I think, 2 months. Hopefully you haven't missed us too much, right?
Well, we have a full house right now, which
We do.
I don't think even when we used to record pretty regularly we had this many people in. But to be
Not.
fair,
It
to
helps that I did lower the barrier to entry.
well,
This no longer requires a Patreon subscription.
it's also we're recording right now at like 11:30. I think before we did it at like 3 a.m. Um, so because we used to have
Now it's
nighttime,
only 11 p.m.
yeah, we used to have nighttime jobs, so
Yeah, we now have daytime jobs, so we're still doing it late at night because I don't have a private room for recording. So I gotta do it when people are sleeping and just try to not disturb them too much. Alright, so go back to my show outline here so I can get back into the groove. So yes, we've done introductions. I've said what we're reviewing. As far as dragon news goes, have you been paying attention to any dragon news lately, Bantam?
So there are a lot of things that I want to do. One thing that we have been talking about is we want to do a watch party with the movie Dragon Keeper. I believe it is a Chinese movie. Um, so the dragons are going to be, Eastern dragons. But it looks really good. and I haven't watched any reviews on it, but a couple of the YouTubers that specialize in reviewing animated movies have said that they was really,
Hmm.
really good. I don't know what the
Yeah, and
status. There's another movie that is coming out. All I know about it was that it was a Anthro-Eastern dragon underwater. Uh,
oh, okay, I've seen that too. I forget what it's called, and it's like vanished again.
I
It's
can't.
probably gonna be like what Wish was, where it's like
Yeah,
this is coming, disappears for 3 years, and oh hey, it's here by the way.
yeah. It's probably one of those things that, and you know what? It honestly may have already come out. I don't think this was a movie that was ever going to hit theaters anyway. So usually it's
No, no, it was. I think it was the same Chinese studio, or at least it's one similar to like the one that did Little Door Gods or whatever.
yeah.
So it's not gonna hit theaters. It's gonna just release when it releases.
I'll do some research after we're done recording and figure it out. But there are some
Yeah.
movies that. So what we decided going forward is we're not going to be reviewing movies. We're
At
not
least
going
not in the old-fashioned way,
not
because
in the
trying to do an
old-fashioned.
hour and a half podcast episode for an hour and a half movie just feels like a lot of padding on our end.
Yeah. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to watch the movie together while recording, and we're going to create commentary tracks. And
If
then,
anyone's seen Mystery Science Theater, it's kind of like that idea.
yeah, we're going to be basically Mystery Science Theater 3000ing it. And I mean, we kind of agreed that we would both watch it, first time while recording, so that we get actual genuine reactions. My only thought on that was that there would be a lot of silence, but we'll see how it works out. But there
Yeah,
are
we'll experiment.
Wadpod Theater 2000, yeah. But
I'm
there's
also
that.
gonna have Bantam help me set up streaming so I can try and do video reviews of like games. Like for
Yeah,
example, just recently on Steam, we got the 1.0 release of None Shall Intrude. It's a game where you get to play as a dragon. You're basically a raid boss. The mechanics have the enemies kind of come and raid your lair, and you get to play cards. It's a roguelike deck builder. So you play cards from hand to be your attacks to like defend your lair, kill them all, and all that, right?
yeah,
I will say that my one gripe with it so far is that it feels more like a terrain manipulation game because most of your damage and stuff comes from putting lava towers on the floor and then you attack the lava tower with wind and that does an AoE attack. Or more of your damage comes from making the enemies stand on lava. And if you put boulders up, you get armor. So it just feels more of a terrain manipulation game than an actual like I'm gonna wreak havoc on everybody, right?
yeah. Real quick, I just want to say to Treesonix did find the name of the dragon movie that I was talking about. It's called Hidden Dragon, and the trailer launched 3 years ago, and it dropped into its obscurity. I also want to address Stream Frastier. So the thing with the Tunic gameplay, because we tried to do Tunic, and we were recording it, because I have never played Tunic. The only thing I know about it was that it had some sort of weird fourth wall breaking meta thing. And we played for like 2 hours and then found out that none of my audio of me speaking recorded, which was devastating.
Yeah, we could get back into that pretty easily. The main problem is time when we're both here and conscious.
Yeah. I did
A lot
really
of
like
times
the game.
Bantam comes home from work, I'm unconscious on his bed.
Yeah, there were only really 2 moments in the Tunic playthrough that I'm really, really sad are gone. One was sneaking past a boss and Ray was like, oh my fucking god. And the other one was when I came across spiders for the first time and I just went, nope, because they were like legit big and terrifying and not the kind of spiders I like.
I thought they were fuzzy.
They were
We'll
kinda,
find out.
yeah.
It's
But
not
anyway,
important.
that's for future stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so there are definitely plans we want to experiment with moving forward. We are dealing with some weird time issues. Like the last week, we've been ready to record, but we couldn't until today because Bantam has been working several burners in a row. If you don't know the term, that means he opens and closes by himself.
Yeah, I did I don't want to say double shift because it's basically an 11-hour shift, but I did a double on Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday was supposed to be my day off. They made me go to a mandatory training, and then I did another double yesterday.
Yeah, so he
And
just hasn't had a lot of free time until now.
yeah, and so I'm tired. It sucks. So I'm actively
Meanwhile,
job searching.
Yeah, I'm meanwhile wrangling puppies, which doesn't sound terrible, but if you've raised puppies, you know they take a lot out of you. I'm a little tired all the time too.
Yeah, and the worst part is like everyone always says, it's tough work raising a puppy. Now you add a second one, and it becomes exponentially worse.
Yeah, they just feed off of each other's energy, and it's so hard to train them to do anything. Like, you try to make them sit, and one will sit, but the other one doesn't want to, so he, like, lunges for the treat. It makes the first one think, oh shit, I'm gonna lose the treat, so he stops sitting. It's like, oh my god. What kind of puppies? They are Pomskis. I might post some pictures in the Discord after we're done recording, so I don't have to dig through stuff right now. But yeah, so that's what's been up with us lately. That's kind of why we've been a little slow. That's why I wanted to change the support structure. No more Patreon, and it's just a tip jar, basically. We're going to just put stuff out as we can, when we can. Again, assurances, the podcast is not dying. It's just slowing down a bit while we get things under control. But anyway, so let's get on to the review. For those of you who are just joining us, for like me, this is your first episode, 2025, you get a new resolution. I'm listening to a podcast while I go to the gym, and you picked ours. First off, thank you. Great. Awesome. So we're going to start with a spoiler-free review of the book for today, followed by a small break, which will give you, it's like a little 10-second music clip to give you time to, like, panically reach into your pocket, find the podcast and, like, pause it so you can go read it yourself if you decide it's something you're going to do. After the break, we then get into more in-depth discussions about what we liked and didn't, what we thought of the characters and the plot, and our predictions moving forward, and that kind of stuff. So, again, the book we're doing today is called Claws Out, which is book 1 of the Dragon Sorcerer series by Sean Oswald. It is a lit RPG, dragon shifter, dragon rider story with some romance elements. It is not explicit, but it does not shy away from referencing stuff. So, like, there's no, like, actual, like, adult scenes, but they will, like, mention, like, oh, guys only want one thing, and then, like, someone, like, nudges someone else, and whatever, right? They acknowledge sex exists, and they make references to it, but nothing explicit actually happens. So, first off, I guess that was the brief synopsis and content warnings. The general plot line in, like, 2 sentences is there is a blue dragon who was attacked by a team of adventurers and chased from his home because they wanted to capture him. In order to hide from them, he assumes human form, ends up hiding a little too well to where he accidentally joins their group as they bring him to a magical academy, because all mages are required to attend an academy in this universe. And it's just him trying to blend in, learning about humans while he starts to get to know the human that he accidentally bonded with Dragon Rider style.
Did you mention that this is also a lit RPG?
I did mention lit RPG.
Okay. And yeah, he apparently all sorcerers or magic users in this universe are dangerous because they can, kind of like blood magic or magic users in Dragon Age, they can rip open a tear in reality and summon demons and monsters. So they need to be controlled.
Yeah.
Magic racism.
Magic racism. I wouldn't call it magic racism. Those of you who have been with us before know that I generally hate Dragon Shifter books. I will say that this is the best Dragon Shifter I have ever read, and while that is a very low bar, I want to say that I actually enjoyed it. I think the human shapeshifting actually did add something to it. It was used properly. Even though he is a dragon in human form, he actually still thinks and even acts like a dragon. This can be anything from a small, like, slip of the tongue, which Bantam learned to hate, because he thinks it happened too often. We'll get into that in a second.
Way too often.
It can be anything like a small slip of the tongue, like saying claws instead of fingers, for example, to just how, because it's a first-person book, just how he sees and thinks about everyone else. He is constantly looking down on everyone around him because he's a dragon, he's superior. He doesn't understand why humans need to do that. Why do they need to wear clothes? Oh, because they're squishy and soft, don't have magnificent scales. Why do they have to collect their waste matter in a bucket? Because dragons don't have toilets. So, like, he thinks that concept is, like, completely strange and absolutely disgusting. So I feel like the author did a really good job of capturing an actual draconic point of view, even though he's in a human body and a human setting. Would you agree with that, Bantam?
Yeah. I mean, aside from my one gripe, which we'll get to, but yeah, I will agree that I mean, I haven't nearly read as many shifter books as you,
Mm.
but the shifting in this was, as you said, the fact that he did maintain his dragon mind was kind of refreshing, because the ones that I have read, yeah, it feels like, as we've mentioned in very early episodes, it feels like someone writes a book and it's generic fantasy romance slop, and they put a dragon on the cover and say, "Oh, he's actually a dragon," because they think, "Oh, that'll make people buy my book," and it's like a lot of shifters, it's like they introduce the dragon and talk about how great he is, and then he transforms into human, and then that's it.
Yeah.
It aggravates me in a different way because I actually got into a huge argument with a coworker today about this, but fantasy media where human plus races are the norm, and everyone's like, look, it's so cool and different because it's not all humans, and it's like, they're all humans, they're just different shapes.
Yeah, not to like tangent too far, but basically think Star Trek, where all the aliens are just, it's a human with pointy ears, it's a human with ridges on his forehead, it's a human with green skin. It's like they're still human. You did not change them enough to be considered
Yeah,
aliens by my book. Or in
yeah, they're
Star Wars, where all the aliens are just literally humans. A lot of them don't even change how they look. The people on Coruscant look exactly the same as the people on Naboo, look exactly the same as the people on Tatooine, and so on and so forth. I don't know Star Wars lore. I don't know if it's like, well, that's because they were all the same race. There was a big galactic empire that spread from one single planet called Holy Terra, and then they just lost contact with each other. I don't know. But the point is, it's stupid because everyone assumes, most sci-fi assumes every alien just looks like a human. I don't know how we got on that tangent, but whatever.
Stream says that I just casually mentioned I had a fight with my coworker about this. Yeah, my coworker is very much into Vampire the Masquerade, D&D, Star Wars, Star Trek. So yeah, we have these conversations pretty much every day. So can I talk about why I hated the shifter aspect of this?
Kinda. We're gonna segue into that, but just kind of keep the same order as we used to because I have our bullet point list here. Uh, what did you think about the quality of like the dialogue, the writing style, his prose, the way he describes stuff, and that kind of thing?
I thought it was really well done. A lot of longtime listeners will know that dialogue can be a really touchy subject for me, in the sense of it can make or break a book for me. When characters are constantly or writer, not characters, when writers are constantly trying to find new words to describe how someone said something, that tends to annoy the piss out of me. Or when they constantly say that a character said this, like, "Hi, how are you today?" Bantam said. "Great, I'm how are blah blah blah." Ray said, and then blah blah blah. Bantam said, and it's like, it doesn't need to be, at least in a written format. It does not need to be like that. You just line break, hit tab, type a new line of dialogue, especially if there's only two characters talking. If a new
Yep.
character joins,
It
then
really
you
fast, really quickly it becomes insinuated that they are swapping speakers because that's just the way formatting works.
yeah. This book didn't bother me in that way, and it's one of those things where sometimes things will just hit my ear in a certain way, and I start getting really aggravated by it. Which there are some things in this book that did that, but the writing
Such
for the
as you can mention it now. This is the
okay,
segue.
so this is a shifter book. It's a dragon that turns into the human shape for survival reasons. He is constantly making references to not knowing what the human term for something is, and it gets to the point where it's like, maybe every other page you forgot that he was a dragon. So let's remind the reader that he's a dragon, because
It might have been someone like me who wanted to be like, "This is how you do Dragon Shifter," and just overcorrected.
way way too much. I noticed it way more than Ray says he did, but
Yeah, so
it
it's
was
stuff
like,
like, well, he's like, what do they call those appendages on their hands? Ah, yes, fingers.
yeah, constantly, like, if I were in my dragon form, I'd tear out his throat, but I'm in this squishy human form. Constantly. If I were in my dragon form, it over and over and over. And it's like he's constantly telling himself, "Oh right, I'm a human. Oh right, I'm a human." And it's like, yeah, we fucking get it, all right? Ugh, it
Yeah.
aggravated me so much.
Yeah, so when he mentioned that as his problem, I started to keep an ear out for it, and it didn't feel that often. I think when Bantam's just annoyed by something,
I do, I
he picks
do,
it up really hard.
I do.
But there's one thing I will say as far as like my opinions on his writing style and his prose and all that. Generally, it was very good. I liked the way he wrote a lot of stuff. I have a couple of complaints. Let's just be honest, they're complaints. I feel like he tried a little too hard to be poetic when he tried to describe stuff, particularly scenes of a battle. There will be time. At one point he's like, gonna go fight in like the mountains or somewhere, and so there's like I swear it feels like it would have been 2 pages. Again, audiobook. I don't know how many actual pages or word count. It feels like 2 pages of like the snow was covering everything to where the mountains were like ivory claws reaching up into the heavens. Meanwhile, the whatever was like he tries to be super poetic, like over the top, like I don't know. And it just feels like it goes on for a bit too much. Like, oh my god, I don't need to know the layout of the
So
mountains and the forest and the river that's cutting through the village, which looks like a little dilapidated thing on this fabric of whatever. Like, too many descriptors, too many metaphors for how things look like. And it's like, I thought it went over the top.
yeah,
You were gonna say?
I did notice that, but it wasn't nearly as annoying to me as the other things you were mentioning, and I just wanted to touch back on. You're right. When something annoys me, I now hyperfixate on it. Like when you pronounce in depth, you say in depth. So like, or the thing that I always make fun of you for how you pronounce gauge, you pronounce it gauge, and it's like, so
It's a
yes, I
feel
do
gauge.
hyperfixate on the things that annoy me, which there's so many other words that he pronounces wrong, and sometimes I think it's he genuinely doesn't know, and I correct him, and then that just makes it worse because now he's like, all right, cemented it in my memory. Say it this way to annoy Bantam.
A little bit, yeah. But no, some of it is like I just pronounce it that way, and that's just whatever. The other complaint I have about his writing style is I feel like he forgets stuff sometimes. I can only like assume this was because he wrote it in very small chunks at a time. Like he would write these 3 pages, then put it down, come back 2 days later, write 5 more pages, put it down, come back a few days later. Because there were definitely sections that felt like he would have the character realize something, and then like 4 paragraphs later, he like re-realizes it, or he like restates it again. Like, so it feels like he just forgot what he had already said or read or put down or whatever. And so it had to, or he just, for whatever reason, maybe for padding purposes, to try to get a certain word count, he just constantly tried to like reiterate the same point like 3 times in a chapter. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's why when Ray and I started our Draco Rimo project, one of the podcasts that he listened to suggested that you have like a storyboard almost. You have a big bulletin board with all these note cards that have little tips and tricks. You essentially do have to basically pull a Tolkien and make like a written wiki for your thing. And I actually when I started writing my book, I had a notepad open where every time I introduced a new character or a new concept, I would write that down, and I was making my own little novel Bible, because that's one of my greatest fears, is because I have bursts of inspiration where I'll write like 30 pages and then put it down for a month, and yeah, I don't want to have to reread my story every single time to figure out what's going on.
But yeah, those are my only 2 complaints about his writing style. Everything else was great. I loved the way he wrote Nico Sandumis, the dragon, his point of view. I loved his dialogue. I quite enjoyed all his little, like, I forgot what the humans call this. Oh, right, it's called a nose. Or whatever, because he's always used to calling it a snout or something. That's not literally one of the things I think he calls his nose a nose, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like, I thought that was a nice little sprinkling of, like, spice.
The little spice,
Uh,
salt,
Little
baby.
spice. um, but yeah, on to the next point. How would you rate this book in its believability or verisimilitude?
Well, it's a lit RPG, so it already takes a hit.
It's worth mentioning that people who have read lit RPGs before, you know that usually they'll be like, "Here's the stat sheet for this character."
They
As
don't
far as
do
the
that.
audiobook goes, They don't do the news often, and actually in the audiobook, the stat sheets are their own chapters, so you can just completely skip it.
Yeah. I do like the fact that the stat sheet wasn't brought up nearly as often as I swear to God. There's like other ones where a character will bring up their stat sheet, then like eat a plant, and then pull up their stat sheet again. I have to listen to it
No,
again.
absolutely. I have read a couple books that do that. They'll go through the entire stat sheet, then he like tweaks one thing, like I assigned my skill points, and now here's what my new totals were, and it goes through the
Yeah.
entire fucking stat sheet again. In their defense, I think they were focusing too much on it just being a written book, in which case you can just gloss over that with your eyes. Who fucking cares, right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't translate to audio very well, which I don't know. It's a thing more people are getting used
So
to. Like I said, the statutes were their own chapters, and it actually says you can skip this chapter if you want. This is just their stats at this point of the story,
yeah.
and it's like a 5-minute chapter as far as Audible is concerned.
So the one thing that actually kind of bothered me about this book is that it is not a isekai, or nor is it a person logging into some fantastical new video game.
Oh, so you don't like when
It's literally the characters exist in a fantasy world, and they just so happen to be able to pull up inventory and stat sheets, and this is just totally normal to them. And I don't like that.
Is this the first time you've had a lit RPG that was like that?
Yeah. Every other lit
I-
RPG has always been a character logging into a game like Dragon Hack, or someone got isekai'd into this world and they found out it was like a lit RPG type world. This is the first time a character is just like, yeah, I live in this world. Boom, there's my stats. And I'm like, wait, why? Like, why? Why is it a contemporary normal fantasy world, but then has the super modern video game bullshit? Like it's not explained, and it kind of annoys me.
It's just the physics by which that will decide to work. Like, if you're already gonna have magic and stuff, then, like, it's not that much of a stretch to be like, and there's also levels. You gain levels in the class, and you got stats, and whatever. There's some magical, all-knowing entity or field or essence that can just quantify your growth for you. It's just something to do.
Yeah.
I think it's fun.
So Ray typed out in the Discord that Vankir is technically an isekai. The thing with Vankir, and I think the reason I forgave it in Vankir, aside from the fact that whole story is just comedy, is the fact that the humans are the ones who can bring up stat sheets and not the animals and beasts and dragons. And because of the sheer level of just, what would, I don't want to say arrogance, but like, superiority.
Oh no! It was Vankir's arrogance that allowed him to see the
superiority
stats in the first place.
that allowed him to pierce that veil, and now the game world is basically like, oh Jesus Christ! All right, here, fine, you can have a stat sheet, And it was like, I liked that because it was, first of all, I feel like the moment you add the comedy tag to anything, you're allowed to get away with so much more in my eyes. But with Vankir, it was only the humans. And so to me, I can kind of forgive that as like, maybe this is an isekai world. And then, whoops, something went wrong with the programming because now a dragon's got a stat sheet. And he's going to break the meta.
On the topic of comedy, since you brought that up, that's actually something that I have against this book also in his writing style, is the book takes itself very seriously. It is a very serious lit RPG. As serious as you can be with stat sheets and level ups, right? And then he still finds some way to put in this stupid, jokey references, like, every, 5 chapters or so, there's, one stupid reference here or there. Like, at one point, Bantam, you saw this one, at one point he makes a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon joke, which,
Okay.
why would... All the jokes are just made, so casually, because in most isekais, the character is making the joke on purpose because they come from Earth, and so they know that this thing exists, and they're making a joke, right? Like the way you or I would drop a reference in whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
But the way it happened in this, because these guys are all naturally from this world, is it's just the author himself has just forced a character to make this pun for the sake of the reader.
Yeah.
And that just ripped me right out of it.
So fun story. The very first time that Ray ever read this book was back when we worked at the grocery store overnight. And this was also before he was also working in the kitchen with me. He was out on the floor. And so all night long I'd be in the kitchen and he'd be out on the floor restocking things. And there was one day where he just punched something, and then he texted me.
I screamed just loudly, God damn it!
And I went, what's wrong? And he goes, this book just made the dumbest reference in the entire world. And when he explained it to me, I was like, wow, that is actually really stupid. And I forgot about it until we were like, oh yeah, we're going to read it. And then I heard the line and I got a sudden flush
Yep.
of just anger. And
Yeah.
I told Ray about it.
So
And he goes, yeah, remember back when I screamed? Like,
yeah. So like without context, it's not a spoiler. So the reference is at one point he is attacked by a were-tiger, so a humanoid tiger, who has the rogue class, so is stealthing around to try and backstab. Nico at this point has the monk class while in his human form, and so the reference was that they should know that a crouching dragon will always be stronger than a hidden tiger. So it's like he swapped the species first off to try to make it work in its context, but you can see how it's kind of just forced in there just to be a ha-ha pun for the reader.
yeah.
And it just ripped me right out of it.
Yeah, and as Ray said, when you inject a, first of all, fourth wall breaking comedy bit in a serious book, that's never a good idea. And the funny thing is that I told Ray that when I'm writing my book, which by the way I have still been plugging away at, but my book is going to have hundreds of references to a particular band I really like, and it's going to be I'm going to try to hide them in such a subtle and clever way that only fans of that band would get them. And I'm just kind of hoping that, like, you know, the book will come out someday and people will read it and go, oh my gosh, let's count all the references to this band.
I should have written down every reference that I came across while reading the future books and keep it like a cinema counter. A cinema sins counter, right?
Ding.
Sin tracker.
Yeah.
Be like, he does it 17 times because, like, I can't remember the rest of them. They fled from my memory because they're so forced that you forget about them a chapter later, but just, in the moment. At one point, he actually makes a self-deprecating joke against authors in general, where, like, the Nico Sandumas is just thinking to himself, like, it's so stupid that the city's the same name as the continent. It's like, that sounds like something that a stupid human scribe would do, or something.
I mean, to be fair, one of my biggest complaints about fantasy books is where they'll take a city name and then add 40 letters and then like 7 apostrophes. And it's like, I'm not going to remember this. I'm not going to remember this guy's name. I'm not going to remember this continent. You've given it weight. It feels like someone just hit random a few times on a fantasy name generator. And it's like, you don't have to do that. You know, like the joke of like how there's like thousands of Avon rivers because Avon means river in another language, and they didn't know that. I'm okay with normal ass names. In a fantasy setting, I'm not so okay with it with characters being named, you know, like Steve or Alex or whatever. But I don't want them to be named like Nikajushi or something like that. And it's like I'm not gonna remember that.
All right, so on to the next point, the final point of the review. How was it as far as the dream fulfillment? From the point of, like, you are not as into wishing you were a dragon as I was, right? But, like, from the point of view of a dragon fan, how much did it fulfill the dream of being a dragon? Was it dragony enough?
Well, like I said, it was certainly dragony enough because he never lets you fucking forget it. But you read on into the other. I don't feel like there was enough of him being a dragon in this book.
Yeah. So as someone who's read the 4 books, first 4, yeah, I would give it like 10 out of 10 on dragon enough. Like, considering he's forced into a human body for parts of it to hide, it fulfilled my dragon dream fulfillment. Like, it was great. I can't really like spoil stuff, but like, as the book goes on, he spends less time in the human form. He does just small little things, like when he is alone in the wilderness because he's traveling between 2 cities for a quest or something, he sleeps in his natural form. Because it's like, it feels so good to stretch out. It's like, I know that the nature of the magic meant I wasn't cramped, but it felt like I was cramped in there, right?
Yeah. And
it's just that combined with the small things like always referring to his fingers as claws and having to like stop himself when he's speaking out loud, like, nope, can't say that, they're my fingers. Or like several times he catches himself saying, you humans, and he's got to like stop himself from saying that out loud.
He always excuses it as I was raised in the wild. Like,
Yeah.
oh, my mother was a witch or whatever. Like, I
I'm a
don't know.
wild child.
Yeah, I'm a wild child. Can I say something controversial? I don't even remember her name, but what's his little charge's name?
His little charge?
Yeah,
You mean his writer?
his writer.
Cammy.
I hate her. I hate her so
That's
fucking
fine.
much. She's so annoying. Like when at one point in the book, he's rude to another character, and she like lashes out at him, and he's like, "How dare you?" But oh my god, my feelings, they're hurt. Okay, I'm sorry, and they don't talk for a while. I can't stand her. She feels like an annoying little clinger, and I hate it.
She gets better in the future book. She gets better.
Okay, well, character
But
growth,
yeah,
that's good.
yeah. Also, like this kind of straddles the line between overpowered protagonist and actually being challenged and having to grow, right?
Yeah.
So he is definitely very powerful. Because again, he's a dragon. A dragon's much stronger than humans, even if he's going against humans that have class levels and stuff, right? They never put him in a situation that feels like completely and utterly hopeless to it, like almost it's unfair, which is important. I feel like is important to dragon fans like me. It's important to me at least, who feel like their dragons should be very powerful. They're fucking dragons, for crying out loud. But also, it's not a complete power fantasy to the point where he just like waves his hand and boom, all his problems are solved. So if you like seeing some struggle and growth and all that, this book does that very well. There is only one point, I'm not going to give specifics, because it happens in like book 3 or 4. There was only one point where the author commits the How to Train Your Dragon 2 sin of basically taking away the character's agency and making him do something really, really bad. It sucked in the moment, but the fallout wasn't that bad, and so it was a little more forgivable. But there is one point of like, I'm forcing character A to do this and whatever, right? I'll get into more detail in the spoilery part. But yeah, just trigger warning for some people that hated that. If you're like me and you hated How to Train Your Dragon 2 just because of that one fucking scene, you know what I'm talking about? There is something that skirts very close in this.
Can we talk about that without spoiling what happens in the book? I mean, because that seems, I guess if you haven't seen How to Train Your Dragon 2, that's on you. But essentially, in a setting where dragons and humans get along, dragons being super powerful, the bad guy would naturally want to use dragons against the humans. So how do you do that? Just bullshit mind control. And it's like, it seemed so lazy and so bullshit in How to Train Your Dragon that a bad guy can just go, oh yeah, no, mind control, go kill them. And it's like, that's stupid, and it's lazy, and it's not fun.
Spoiler warning for a 10-year-old movie, right? I'm just playing it very safe with trying not to spoil stuff, but I guess I can, without context, the method in the book, and it's book 4, I think, where it happens, is bone control.
Bone mancy.
Puppeteering because you can control the bones.
That's so fucking weird.
No comment. Bad. Down. Not that bone. Create the entire Discord now. Okay. Yep, everyone's mind is in the gutter. Okay. Alright, so final rating, X out of 5 stars, and would you live here, Bantam?
2 out of 5. Alright. Wait, sorry, wish fulfillment was the first one?
Oh, did I not ask your opinion on that?
I think you did. But
you said it was kind of there because he wouldn't let you forget he was a dragon, and then you turned it over to me because I read ahead with more.
So one more time with that question, it was because all I heard was "Would you live here?" and I had an answer ready, but there was a first part to that.
The rating the book X out of 5 stars.
Oh, okay. I'd say, you know what? I'm gonna be nice and give it a 4. I wanted to give it like a 3 or 3.5, but I'm gonna say a 4. Would I live here? Absolutely fucking not. Because first of all, I would want to, if magic exists in a universe, I want to use it. I want to learn it. And no, I don't want to be fucking dragged to a goddamn college and forced to, rein in my powers. Bullshit. So what if I
As
cast a
someone
spell
who
on a...
loves this school setting and misses high school, I got no problems with this.
Yeah, Ray and I will never agree on that. I can't stand school. Like, I'm so... Ray still sometimes reminisces about high school, and, oh, I wish I could go back, and I'm just like, oh, God, no. But I have no love for schooling. Um, if it were like Harry Potter, then sure, like that school seems pretty cool. But just the thought of, hey, you're able to do something, so by penalty of law, you have to go to school, and it's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't live here because it seems like, I mean, I don't know what did they ever
Bantam
describe
hates
like.
being micromanaged, and if he wants to be a wizard, he's gonna be micromanaged.
Yes. Did they ever describe like on an average of 1,000 people, how many people are magic adept? Is it like
Oh,
is there like a large majority can become like a 30 out of
no,
100?
it's very rare, which is why the mages are so important. And so it's like everyone must go to the school, and they must be protected because they're necessary to fight off the evil. So it's
Okay,
rare enough
that's
that
another
they're
thing.
hunting them down and being treasured.
Right. That was the other thing, because the last thing I want to do is just be minding my own business. Like let's say I'm off in the woods and I can cast fireball or some shit, and then some fucking knight shows up with angel wings and is like, you're coming to college or you'll die, and I'm like, no. And they force me to go to college anyway, and then now the rest of my life is determined for me. Fuck that. I don't like being told what to do, and so kind of semi spoiler for my book. Yeah, the main character is not going to. That's not going to happen to my character, because I think that's bullshit.
All right. As for myself, I give it 5 out of 5 stars because, again, for the subject matter, I feel like it did it very, very well, and a lot of the world building aspects, which we'll get to in the spoiler section, a lot of the world building aspects I agree with very greatly, and actually use some of them in some of my own settings, whether they're D&D or future writing projects or whatever. And so I loved a lot of it. I loved most of it. Uh, I don't think I had any complaints from the world building perspective. But yeah, I would live here again because some of the world building points I'll get into in a couple minutes are like I just agree with them so heavily that's like yes, absolutely, this is how dragons should be.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
All right, so this is now where we have our like 10-15 second little music clip. This is where you can decide to stop the episode if this has convinced you and interested you enough to go and read the book for yourself. And if so, then after you read it, you can come back and listen to us talk about it a bit more in depth, sort of a
There it is
vicariously
again.
enjoying a book club through us, right? What's happening? What?
You said in depth again.
Oh,
It's just the way you pronounce it, in depth.
I'm just talking, man.
I know. I don't mean to actually make fun of you. It's just I think it's funny.
All right. Anyway, so yeah, quick break, and we'll see you all in a little bit.
Welcome back to the podcast where we will now be getting into spoilers for Claws Out. You have been warned.
Yep, I will do my best to avoid spoiling books 2, 3, and 4. But just to be completely fair, I read these all back to back. There might be some things that happened in book 2 specifically that I don't remember where the book cutoff line is because it's all just one big storyline in my brain. But I'm going to do my best. Alright, so let me pull up my notes that I started taking. I just want to say, like, really fast, like, it's kind of funny how this followed right after all the skills. So this is 2 Dragon Rider books back to back that has the concept of dragons being the, like, mortal enemies of the scourge, the antithesis of life, the evil from another dimension, right? And it's like, we need them to fight each other. It's like, how's that for a back-to-back trope? If I had a penny every time this happened. Yep, just like Trisnick says. It's not a lot of nickels, but it's weird it happened twice. But you know what? I kind of actually enjoy that concept. To me, so I'm going to describe really fast. I'm going to try and do it in like three sentences how I feel dragons should be in relation to the world and what I kind of have them be when I DM like a Dungeons and Dragons or a Pathfinder game. To me, dragons are the inheritors of the world, right? Either because they're the children of the gods, or they are a natural occurrence of just the primeval forces of nature magic, fire, ice, earth, water, whatever, right? Or because they just happen to be the largest apex predators on the planet before civilization sets in. For whatever reason, however mystical you want to be about it, dragons own the planet. They are the strongest creatures. The world belongs to them, which is why I like the idea when dragons hate gods, when they hate devils, when they hate fae, when they hate eldritch beings, and all that kind of stuff, right? I really dig that. And this book does that. The dragons really don't like the gods. They fucking hate the Scourge. There's no fae in here, but I imagine they'd be like, get off my fucking planet, fae. Go back to your fae world, right?
I feel like fae also own equal share of their planet. Come on.
No, because they have their own plane of existence, the Feywild. I guess it depends on your vision of the Fey.
I think that the reason why fae and dragons are typically at odds is because they both have equal claim. The Feywild is, its own little place, but I feel like the Dragon Dream is also its own little place.
The Dragon Dream is not a place you can go to; it's a repository of knowledge.
I feel like
that brings me to the first bullet point on my notes here: the concept of the Dragon Dream. How do you feel about the Dragon Dream in general, just as a concept?
I do like it. It is unique enough that no other race, will have something like that. Typically, with like elves, you'll have like their songs or their history is written in like the trees or some crap. But nothing ever comes close to a collective repository of knowledge. It feels kind of like like a Wikipedia in ethereal space that dragons can just pluck from whenever they need to.
Yeah, it's hive mind adjacent, but not quite there.
Yeah.
Yeah, to answer one of our listeners, comrade in the Discord, the dragons have a collective unconsciousness? Not quite. The dragons are their own beings, and they have their own thoughts, their own personalities, their own will, but there is a dream. It's literally the dream. And when they go to sleep, they can go in it and they can view the memories of their ancestors from the point of view of their ancestors. So it's just the dragon's way to pass down knowledge through the generations. It's not so easy as like going to a library and plucking out the book you want to look stuff up on. It requires a bit of skill to navigate it because you have like so many memories and so many ancestors to go through. So it does not come across as too terribly I can't never pronounce this right, Deus Exi, because he doesn't immediately know what he needs to know in the second he knows it. Like, there are several times where he's like, I must consult the dream on this, right? So, yeah. But it is very neat. It is very unique, and I do like it. And actually, it kind of helps set the stage for why dragons never really developed society. It's one of the reasons why they never develop society. They don't need to have schools or to teach their young or anything because they have this like magical thing that kind of does it for them. So they never needed to innovate around it, right?
Yeah, I mean that's fine. You didn't know. I wasn't gonna jump all over that one. But it's Deus Ex. Like day of sex.
Deus.
I have heard. You know what? I think it might be tomato because I have heard plenty of like famous people say Deus Ex. So I don't know.
It's spelled to it would be Deus, but because it's Latin in origin, I think it's supposed to be Deus. But whatever, I don't know. We'll look up etymology later. But yeah, Dragon Dream is very fun, very unique. I might steal it for D&D. I won't be able to steal it for like actual author stuff because plagiarism. But for D&D, fuck it. I'm taking it. This also had the same issue that Age of Fire had, which is where the dragon younglings kill each other. Which is...
I don't like that.
I don't like it either because as much as I can understand the point of view that some people have of dragons being like wild and savage and they don't have the... I can't think of the term, the societal inclinations that humans have. So like, who cares? My brother means nothing. So like, kill him because resources are scarce and whatnot. It's like, I get that, but I still like familial ties. And so I don't like the idea of littermates fighting to the death. Right?
Yeah. I will say that is something I liked about this book, is that a major plot point in the very beginning of the book is that the adventurers storm his cave while he is, I think he's out, right?
No, he's there.
Oh,
They fight him.
Yeah, they fight him, and he leaves, and he thinks that they killed his sister, and he's really upset about it. Like, he actually cares about his sister.
Yeah, they were fighting him, then his sister comes in, and in the confusion of a second dragon joining the fight, he slips free and runs away and saves himself. Is how that goes down.
Kind of shitty to do to your sister, but...
Well, the thing is, because, like, again, the dragons in this setting have a very look out for yourself kind of mentality. When he talks to other dragons about why didn't you want to help... Shit, hold on. This might be a book 2 thing. At some point, some dragon says if they got captured, it's because they were weak and they deserved it, right? So dragons have a very look out for yourself kind of mentality. So yeah, he escaped because he could. There was an opening, he runs away. The only reason he actually cares for his sister is because he is different. He is odd. He is weird in that way. To the point where when, I think, I'm trying to remember how the conversation goes. When he tells his sister, I was worried about you, she's like, why?
I'm a motherfucking dragon. I can take care of myself, bro. I will also say, and this is a super nitpicky little detail that I really liked, I love that he's not a red dragon.
He's blue.
He's blue. Every I swear to God, every solo dragon book we've read, it's either browns or reds or, whatever. It's always the most cliche dragon I've ever heard of.
Yeah,
and
it's definitely a thing. It's like, I get wanting to go with the most cliche thing. Like, to this day, like, if you asked me to pick my favorite Dungeons & Dragons dragon, it would be a toss-up between blue and red. Because, like we're talking about right now, blue is just interesting. It's much more unique. It's not the most popular, and so it's kind of fun to root for the underdog, right? Lightning is really cool. I really like desert settings, which in D&D, blue dragons are in the desert. And yeah, but at the same time, there's just something about red dragons being like the poster child. They just have like the biggest like dragon vibe about them.
Yeah, I just appreciated the fact that he was a blue dragon, because you ask any child who loves dragons growing up, like, oh, describe a dragon to me, and they're gonna say red and breathe fire. And it was nice to have the main dragon be blue and breathe lightning.
Yeah. Lightning
is far more unpredictable, and I feel like harder to dodge than a fireball. So I kind of like it.
As Nico says, there's a lot more finesse to lightning.
Yeah.
One thing that I will mention about this book is I also appreciate how Nico was he was kind of brute forcey. Like, he's just, I'm big, I'm strong, I'm just gonna breathe lightning on you, you're gonna fucking die, right? Most other
as you do
most other isekai things that I've read, I'm trying to remember exactly how many of them were dragon specific and whatever. The author tries to be really clever with like, oh, he's not going to be the biggest dragon, he's going to be the cleverest or the sneakiest or the fastest, or he uses illusions to trick people or whatever, right? It's like, sometimes it feels good. Sometimes it feels good just to be like, nah, I'm just big and bad and going to just beat you into the ground.
Yeah, I'm literally built like a tank. I can soak a lot of damage, and then I can just crush you with 1 foot, and it's or just slap you into the ground and you're dead. And yeah, you're right. It does feel like most of the dragon media is, I'm not the strongest, or the whatever, but I'm clever, or I have luck on my side, or I have access to tools that other dragons don't. So, therefore, I'm going to win because Jack of all trades bullshit. And it's like, ugh.
Mm. Like, I'm specifically thinking of another book called Master of the Horde, which is actually referenced in this series in, like, book 3. And I was like, holy fucking shit. I had to look up to make sure they weren't the same author because my god. But there's a book called Master of the Horde, which is a reincarnation isekai where he comes back as a shadow dragon. And at one point, being a little RPG, he's got to choose like his evolutionary path. Like I think he spawns as a baby dragon, and so he doesn't have a color until he like reaches level 5 or some bullshit like that. And he's reading through the options. It's like red dragon, you get like massive bonuses to strength and durability, and this, that. And blue dragon, you get super fast, and you're really strong, and this, that. And then like the last choice, like shadow dragon, you are the smallest and the weakest, but you're tricky and clever, and will use shadows and illusions to outwit your enemies. And he's like, and the character's like, I think I'm gonna go with shadow dragon because everything else is just too obvious. This is obviously the right choice because I can outsmart them. And it's like, oh, no, I'm reading this for power fantasy. Let me be a big brick wall tank.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just something I appreciated. It was like, yep, let's let the dragon was allowed to be big, burly, and unstoppable. I'm sorry, I'm reading my notes and trying to figure out how to like parse this into like a discussion rather than me just ranting about the book for like 10 minutes straight. Because like this one right here says like it's worth mentioning as much as I love overpowered protagonists and dragons, I can appreciate having to get there first. I just don't want the, quote, strong arc to be compromised by struggle. But everything before that, namely the attack on the nest, him being scared, having to retreat, admitting that he was weak but I'll get stronger, it's really amazing, and it makes the payoff later feel so good.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it wasn't that he initially was like, oh my god, I'm so weak. It was that because I remember as he was leaving, he was like, if it were just blah 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 and blah blah blah, I could have taken them, but the mage fucked everything up.
Or
And
it was something like that, or it was like I could take any of them one-on-one, but them coming all at the same time made it overwhelming. Something like
he
that.
was like it was something annoying that humans did a lot, which is overwhelming by numbers. And he's like, while I'm focused on one, another one's hitting me from behind, and it's not fair. I
The
mean,
thing
I
is,
don't
they
know if
just
he
flat
said
out
it wasn't fair, but
no, he never complained about like they're cheating. It was like they flat out acknowledge that while they're young, that dragons are weak and vulnerable. He mentions in like there's like a 2 or 3 page just like this is how I was growing up in the nest kind of deal because he's like 50 years old at the start of the book, right? And like he mentions that while they were super super young, that they were actually food for opportunistic predators like cave lizards, I think he said, and phoenixes. I remember him mentioning phoenixes, right? So like while they're young and small, they are susceptible to predators. Like dragons don't just start out unstoppable. They have to, survive and grow and get there first.
I did really like the mental image of that though, because yeah, he was describing at one point that phoenixes would pluck, baby dragons, and that they were a predator or whatever. And I'm just because in everything you just imagine phoenixes as these bright, gorgeous, beautiful, intelligent creatures that are pure good, and just imagining a dragon in his nest, and then just this big fiery bird comes in and just takes it, and it's like
Peck, peck,
that's
peck,
not
peck,
what
peck.
phoenix are supposed to do.
It was definitely funny. The thought of phoenixes eating baby dragons is like, of all the things to pick to be a dragon predator, I would not have gone with phoenixes.
Yeah, well, see, like I said, I love anti-tropes. If something catches me off guard because it hasn't been done before, you get bonus points, which is I think why I gave this book a 4 out of 5, because there are a lot of anti-tropes in this book. Nothing aggravates me more than hearing a certain sentence or phrase and then knowing what's going to happen for the next 2 chapters. Like a character falling in love with someone and then they get captured, and it's like, oh god, it's a very very common trope. The good guy is, let's say he's all powerful, or at least he's nearly unstoppable at whatever point in the story, and the bad guys are like, well, we have the perfect trap, but we need to get him here, so let's kidnap whatever character he's fallen in love with to force him to come here. And it always pisses me off. And I jokingly always say, like, I wouldn't have that problem because I just wouldn't have any friends or lovers. I'll just be like, good luck, talk to some barmaid for a day or two because I happen to be frequenting that tavern, and the bad guys kidnap her, and they're like, haha, if you want your, it's like, I don't give a shit about her, fuck you.
Going through my notes, scanning, reading really fast. People, old time listeners will like to know. would like to know, bleh, old-time listeners will remember that I've got into the habit of dissecting stories, because when I was preparing to try and write my own thing, which failed horribly, and I'm going to have to try again in the future, but while preparing for that, I listened to a podcast and I read a couple books on, like, the art of writing, right? Story structure and that kind of stuff. And so when I'm reading a story or I'm watching a movie, I'm like, hey, this is the false victory. This is the dark night of the soul. There's the inciting incident. That kind of stuff, right? Like, I started to notice the beats. I just want to point out the save the cat scene in this book. Early on, after Nico gets his human form, and he's talking to Cammy, and then Cammy's dad comes, and, he's just really mistreating her because, shut up, girl, you don't get an opinion because women are looked down upon in this society, right? And he's, like, going to backhand her because she talked back to him or something, right? And so when he raises his hand to strike his daughter, Nico just instinctively steps between them, right? Like he's going to block or absorb the blow. And that's just a good example of a save the cat scene. Up until this point, since we've been in Nico's head, we get the impression that he's very arrogant and he is very he's just a dick, right? Because these humans are so pathetic and beneath him, and I've just wiped out like a troop of like 7 knights that tried to stop me from eating these cows, and just a whole, I can't remember the exact wording of a lot of the stuff, but basically up to this point, Nico has seemed like a dick. He seemed like he doesn't care about people. He's just been an asshole because dragons are superior, and that's kind of just the point of view that we want to stick with for this, at least for the first part of this book, before he learns to see humans as their own worthwhile creatures, right? So in order to get the reader on Nico's side, rather than having them roll their eyes and groan like, ugh, I don't have to deal with a whole fucking book of this asshole, they have Nico step in to protect Cammy from an abusive father. And that's supposed to let you know that, hey, even though he is a dick, he has like this spark of good in him, that he's willing to do this subconsciously without even thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, the podcast / book and phrase "save the cat" is literally supposed to be the moment that you understand that this is a good person, because a bad person would not save the cat. Mm-hmm. Like, if he literally stood there and just watched Cammy get backhanded and like fall into the dirt,
then he would come across as having no redeeming qualities.
Yeah. And it would be that much harder to get the audience on his side.
Yeah, I mean, there would be some people that would still like it. I would have stuck with it a bit longer. We would have to see if it would eventually grate on me. Probably not, because I enjoy my dragons arrogant. I don't know, but, like, I won't know until it happens, right? But there will always be a small audience that, like, wants the superpower fantasy of, like, yes, I want to be in the point of view of an asshole who just, like, burns the town down. But most people wouldn't. And if you're going to have a published book, you might want to do what a large majority is going to be okay with.
All right, so you have more notes, or do we want
I have more that I'm reading, but you can go ahead and, like, just, what was, like, your favorite scene in the book?
My favorite scene in the book was the fight against the, what are they called? The Scourge?
Was when it ended.
Was what?
Your favorite part of the book is when it ended.
I'm not that. I don't want to be that mean to this book. There have been other books, where I toss in the towel, DNF. This book was so bad, I just didn't even want to. I did have to force myself to listen to the rest of it, but it didn't feel agonizing like other books have. Like I know that it's become a meme, but I mean, I want to stress that it is my 100% genuine opinion that Tooth and Claw and Mating Flight were objectively bad books for me.
I'm rereading Tooth and Claw right now.
Fucking can't believe you subject yourself to that willingly again.
It's so good.
It's not. But you know what? For long-time listeners, go back and listen to that episode and just listen to me fumble my way through that, because I barely read that book. I could not get through it. It was so bad, and I was just like, haha, yeah, throughout the whole podcast episode. But
he was barely listening.
Yeah, but while I was listening to you guys, and I was kind of picking up the rest of the story through context clues, but I remember I was talking with Dilettante in private, like, what happened here? What happened here? Okay, thanks. But at any rate, this book wasn't that bad. You're already going to be fighting me to get me to read a book. Thankfully audiobooks exist, but if I'm not immediately engaged in the book. Like all the skills, I'm like absolutely excited to get to the next book. Like as soon
Hmm.
as the next book was available, I was like, Ray, give me the file, I want to listen to it. Um, and
Which is a miracle
also,
for Bantam.
yeah, and the other one, the summoning of whatever. Um,
Something of Zoth, Conjuring of Zoth Azox is something. I don't fucking.
Zoth
It's a
Avar.
weird name.
Yeah, it's a weird fantasy name again, which is why you don't give silly fantasy names to things. But Zoth Avarax, I think. And I loved that book because that was just that. That there was a book I read when I was a kid called Board of the Rings, and it was just a parody of Lord of the Rings. I like parodies. I like comedy, um, because it keeps me interested. Um, but with this book, it wasn't too bad. I was able to get through it, but there were certainly that times where I was forcing myself through it. My favorite part of the book was the Scourge fight, specifically when up until the point where he needed a human god's help. When the human god had to help him and make him bigger so that he could fight it off, and then the god is like, haha, now you're in my debt. Now that is where it immediately, all the little hype that I was getting, like, yeah, he's fighting a big monster in dragon form and it's great, and then it was immediately ruined by being indentured to a god. Um, Fucking
Present
hated
mind,
that
future
shit.
body.
Huh?
Present mind, future body. That was the enchantment that he got.
Yeah. Hated that part because now he's like, oh great, now somebody can lord something over me and tell everybody that I'm actually a dragon and ruin everything, and it's like, oh great. So that cool fight scene with, like, I bested something, super powerful and whatever, and then it's immediately ruined by, haha. It felt like the narrative equivalent of just slapping the chains on, and it's like, oh great. So it was great because up until that point I was like, yeah, and then it was like, oh.
Um, I didn't. That was. I wasn't that bothered by that scene. To me, it served a few purposes. The first was it let you see where Nico's going to end up. It's kind of the book example of in a video game where during the prologue you get a fight at full power and then you lose all the power, right?
Oh, that's infuriating in games though.
Like the beginning of Dragon's Dogma, right? Kind of similar to that, right? So
Not really, because in Dragon's Dogma you're just some dude with a sword swinging it around, and then you just get bodied. I don't know. You're not really at full power.
I don't know. If I remember correctly, you had like 4 or 5 abilities, so you could do them, and you don't. Then when you get to actually make your character, you don't have them. You're kind of like naked as far as skills go. I don't remember. It's been ages, and I barely played that game. Point being, it lets you see where Nico's can end up as far as like his size and kind of power and whatnot. I thought that was okay. It also lets you see how big of a threat the Scourge can be. The Scourge and the Horrors. That's what they're called, the Horrors. Um, in a way that wasn't, like I said, they never put Nico in a hopeless situation where he's going to lose or he's going to have everything taken from him or whatever. So even though he was going against like hey, this thing is large, it's terrible, it wiped out these level 20 adventurers, but they still gave him a way to take it down because he's the main character, he gets to be the power fantasy. So hey, take it down.
Yeah,
I
I
can kind
did.
of see your point with not liking the fact that he only could because a goddess had to give him a buff, but I mean, there wasn't really any other way. It was like the only way to do it, and that deal that he entered with her was necessary to helping him keep his secret, especially with all his fumbles. Like earlier on, Comrade asked, "How is he surviving as a human if he knows fuck all about humans?" It's because he gets help from a goddess. She agrees to keep his secret and to even obfuscate the minds of those who would be close to figuring it out, right? So people will look at him like he's very strange. Like, why would you say that? Why do you refer to humans as like you humans rather than us humans kind of deal? And then they get like kind of foggy brained and like, oh, whatever, it's not a big deal, right?
He says you humans, and they just stare at him dumbstruck for a few seconds and go, ha, you weirdo. I did like, and also I wanted to mention in that fight scene, I did like the fact that the level 20 fucking paladin who Nico was originally kind of scared of, like, oh, I don't know if I could take him. Watching him get bodied, and then Nico's like, haha, that was good.
What do you think about just in general, and then the way this book did it, just the concept of dragon ride.
Uh,
Especially when they have a magical bond that kind of forces them together in some way.
I this is this is like not a critique of the book in any way, shape, or form. I prefer dragon riding and that whole bond to be forged purely based off of just what the characters want to do. I don't like it to be magical in nature. I don't like it to be necessary for survival. I would much rather prefer that like a dragon ends up liking this person enough that like, hey, do you want to come with me and you can ride on my back because I like you enough to let
Bantam
you ride
should
on my
just
back.
go to the Discord's lagging, so we keep talking over each other. That's gonna suck in editing. Oh my god. But Bantam just wants to go to the Knight's College and be like, hey, here's your dragon. You're assigned to him. Take care of each other.
No, not even nothing like that. But like, let's say for example, a dragon's out hunting in the woods and happens to see a dying hunter, who is on the brink of starvation or something, and he's like, oh, this poor fool, and like drops half of a deer on him or something and then leaves. And like that hunter survives and then returns to the cave to thank the dragon for providing, preventing him from starving to death or whatever. And like starts trading with him and they develop a friendship and eventually a bond. And then the dragon's like, you know, hey, I need to leave because it's dangerous here for me, or they found my cave or some shit. I'm going to leave. Do you want to come with me kind of thing? Like, I would much prefer it be a choice on both characters' parts, but no magical bond, no sharing hearts, no fucking magic spells. Just, a dragon and his best friend who happens to be a human. I prefer it that way. Again, not a critique of the book. It's just that's how I would prefer it.
Yeah, so Bantam just really wants the power of friendship. Ugh.
Yeah, the power of friendship. We
Do you,
are.
hold on. After you get the friendship with the dragon, do you want and you're friends with the dragon, you've known each other for like several months, several years, however long it takes, and you decide that you're going to let the dragon decides he's going to let you ride him. At that point, does the bond become magical? Do you want it to be magical in any way, or just like
No.
hey, no, we just agreed and we can stop whenever we want?
Yeah, I would much prefer it to be, mostly because I guess in a narrative sense, because you can't have everything be perfect all the time. Eventually the dragon and the human will get into a fight or a disagreement or differences in opinion, and the dragon will either cast out the human or the human's like, this is a bunch of bullshit, I'm out of here, and they leave, and then they kind of realize that they just miss each other's company, or the dragon's like, god damn it, I have this itch between my wings and I can't get it. He was so good at getting it there, whatever. And then they just kind of make up and they get along on their own terms. I don't like feeling magically compelled to things,
Bantam
like,
just wants a dragon version of the Lion and the Thorn.
yeah, but like if the human is like, fuck this, I'm out of here, and they have some magical bond, which by the way, every time there is ever a magical bond, it only ever hurts the fucking dragon, and that pisses me off. Like the human is blessed with like enhanced fortitude and longevity or whatever, and then he fucks off into the sunset because he's pissed off, and then the dragon starts withering because, oh god, the other half of my soul is gone, and it's like, ugh.
It's worth mentioning that in Scale Empire, the sci-fi one we read not too long ago, if the dragon and human separate, the human withers away to nothing.
That's fine. That's fine.
But no, in this book, the magical bond is beneficial to both. No one is hurt. If Cammy dies, nothing bad happens to Nico besides being sad and missing her. If Nico dies, nothing bad happens to Cammy except from being sad and missing him. I think. She's supposed to get a longer lifespan out of it. I don't know if she keeps that if he dies. That never really came up in conversation. But whatever. But yeah. I agree with you in the sense that I don't like magical compulsions. I mean, that's the whole reason why I hate How to Train Your Dragon 2, right? So I don't like magical compulsions, but I'm okay with it being a magical aspect to the bond. It should be one that, like, the dragon and the human, like, agree to join together. Such as, like, for example, they became friends. A year down the road, or maybe they were at like fucking magic college together. A universe where dragons and humans go to the same fucking college, right? And they decide, hey, let's be dragon and rider. They take the oath, they do the magical bond, and now they're linked spiritually or magically or whatever. That I'm okay with. So, especially because like in this setting, after he bonds with Cammy, it's accidental, which is kind of like puts a weird kind of iffy feeling on the whole thing throughout the book, because you never know if like the system is like kind of forcing them to like each other because they happen to be bonded, right? It could be messing with their brain a little bit. But after bonding with her, he starts, getting power really, really fast. In RPG terms, he levels up so much faster than other dragons could. He literally is like cheating through all the age groups.
Is that ever explained why? Because I must have missed that. I mean, I remember that he did level up faster, but I don't remember if it was ever explained why.
Yeah, every time Cammy gained a level in one of her classes, he gained 10% age growth. Age growth, yeah. So if he was like a young adult, 30% of the way to mature adult, because that's just his natural age, when Cammy levels up, he's now suddenly 40%. And if she levels up again, he's 50%. And because she started so low level, she gained like 7 levels in like one go, because she was level 1, traveled with level 20 adventurers, right? He like jumps like entire age groups at a time. It's also worth mentioning for people that didn't read the book and are just listening to us talk because they don't want to read it and they would rather listen to us talk. The age groups for dragons are not so much tied to their actual age, but is a representation of their power. This book is very Dungeons and Dragons-y, honestly, where a dragon will be a young adult, and that means they have these stats and they have these abilities. And if they go out and kill other monsters or humans or other dragons or whatever, to where they would become stronger, because they have their own growth currency called DKP rather than EXP. If they were to gain abilities and become stronger, they would just magically grow faster.
Yeah, the DKP system was a little silly to me, but I guess it makes sense
I
because,
mean, I liked it because I enjoy the concept of RPGs that have currencies and skill trees and all that stuff. It's like, damn, I would play a game set in this universe. That'd be dope.
I understand why they had to do it too, because otherwise, like, they had to explain away why he couldn't just, go into the forest and kill like, 100 deer or something and level up. It's like it has to be a challenge. It has to be something that can fight back. It has to be a worthy kill.
Yep,
so I get
because
that,
dragons are all about worthy prey, worthy honorable fights, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because otherwise you get that South Park thing. It's like, we spend all day in the forest killing boars.
The thing is, there was actually one scene in this book where he did cheat the system. No, that was in book 2. Holy fuck. See, the one downstairs reading them back to back to back to back. Because remind me when book 1 ends exactly. Is it literally when he gets to the college?
Very shortly after, yeah.
But like nothing really happens at the college. They kind of just get there, right?
Correct. Yeah. Because most of book 1 is the travel there.
Okay. So like at some point in book 2, again, I don't think this is spoiler because it's like a very small scene that is technically a filler scene. So at one point in book 2, he's killing monsters in the forest with his bonded rider. Oh, is it book 1, Trace Nix? Bantam wouldn't know. He glazed over half of it. Okay, I don't feel so guilty. Okay, so he's in the forest killing the monsters with Cammy and the other adventurers, and he gets a perk from the Dragon Rider Bond that says he gains 25% more DKP if he fights with his bonded, a minimum of +1. So even though he's like basically a level 18 dragon and he just squashes a level 1 goblin beneath his thumb, he still gets a full DKP. So he's like, hey, Lazella, I need you to enter coins into this goblin vending machine for me as fast as you can. And he just sits there squashing goblins one after another and just gets like several hundred DKP in the course of like half an hour. So he actually completely cheats the system.
But I respect that. Because if a dragon knows that he can get more power, he's going to do it.
Absolutely. I feel like the system like anticipated it because some of the things that he has to get later on, including just letting Cammy borrow DKP to boost the level of his spells, the scale the cost is so fucking drastic that there is no way a non-bonded dragon would be able to get this kind of stuff. Which I actually have a small problem with. I'm totally okay with a bonded dragon and rider growing faster. Like, that's my whole argument for why dragon riders are okay when they're done properly. Like Dilatan, when he was with us, God rest his soul, talk as if he was dead. Dilatan was so against the concept of letting a human ride on a dragon's back, like, at all. And I was always like, no, in a non-magical sense, this was during Age of Fire, so in a non-magical sense, a human on the dragon's back is just a tool. It's an extra weapon. It's like the dragon with a human on his back holding a crossbow will always be slightly better than the dragon that has nobody with him. It's like you will always be slightly better, and once you start adding magical buffs into it, or like you have a wizard on your back, or like in Temeraire, you're large enough to have fucking 150 people on your back, and so you got like a whole goddamn fusillade ready to go off. It's like, yes, the dragon with riders will always be stronger. So I'm okay with that. I agree with it. If I was like a dragon in one of these universes, I would totally have a rider because I think it's awesome, and I love Bantam, and you can ride my back anytime you want, right? But to just give them such a massive leg up over any other non-bonded, to where it in a dog-eat-dog world, it feels like you're almost forced into taking a rider, that kind of really sucks.
There was one other thing that I remembered that, do you want to know the part of the book that made me laugh the hardest? You'll never guess. I actually want you to try to guess 3 times.
What part made you laugh the hardest?
Yeah.
I can't guess.
Okay, alright, yeah.
First of all, I'm pretty sure it's such a minor scene that I can't even remember it right now.
Probably. So, Nico is fighting the horror, right? And Cammy gets a vague sense of, oh no, my dragon is in danger, and so she's so filled with anxiety and like anger or whatever, she starts transforming a little bit, and she's able to summon it. The way the book is, like, she summoned 5 magical darts. Whoa, that wasn't the part that made me laugh. It was her sprinting through the forest in a blind panic and then collapsing when the danger was gone. And I'm like, so this whole part of the book was fucking pointless. Like, she's just running around in the forest for no fucking reason. And it just made me laugh because I'm like, we seriously for several paragraphs just followed her running through the forest going, oh god, oh no, and then collapses.
I think it was just because that was super, super early on in their bond. Like, their bond was only like level 3 or whatever at the time. I think that's just to show just how connected they are. And how, I don't know, I also feel like it may have just been acknowledging the fact that she got a percentage of Nico's stat points. And this was during the time when he got his present mind, future body. So he was sitting there as like an ancient, and so like massive increase in stats. So like, this is how it affects her. This actually does remind me, there was one other thing I wanted to complain about as far as his writing style goes, and it's just the sheer number of interludes he has. It's like, this book is completely from Nico's point of view. At least the main numbered chapters are. And I'm okay with jumping point of views. I've read books where it's like, this chapter is, we'll just do Wings of Fire. This chapter is Darkstalker. This one's Fathom. This one's, fucking Clearsight. This one's Darkstalker again. Back to Clearsight. Here's another Clearsight for 2 or 3 in a row. Then we go back to Fathom. I'm okay with jumping point of views, but the way that he did it with like, oh no, the chapters are all Nico, and I'm only gonna like very rarely show you another person's point of view in an interlude. But then you get like, I don't remember how many were in book 1, but in book 4 there were 7 interludes. It's like, and each interlude was like twice as long as a normal chapter because it jumped through like 4 different points of views, right? It's like, at that point, just write normal chapters and just be willing to jump point of views. It's like
Chapterception.
Yeah, there should only be like 2 interludes. Like, the point of an interlude is it's like a natural breaking point between an act.
It's
like
a black screen, white text. Meanwhile,
yeah, basically. So it was. I felt like he misused the interlude because he was just so married to the idea of having every single chapter be from Nico's point of view. Meanwhile, back at the farm.
Meanwhile, back at the Imperial capital. You wouldn't get that joke because you skipped all the cutscenes.
No, I saw some of the meanwhile ones. There were some cutscenes that I would watch, and then when it said "meanwhile at the Capitol," then I would skip it. I don't fucking care. One of my notes here is one of the great sins of book 1 is Cammy. Like, you didn't like her because she was a whiny baby. I didn't like her because she was trying to force Nico to think like a human. Like, when there's one scene at the inn when he's talking to Cammy, and I don't remember the context of the conversation or the exact wording, but he says that dragons are superior to humans. Like, he knows this for a fact. Like, she probably asked him, do you think you're better than us? And he's like, I don't think I know. It was something like that, right? Dragons are 100% better than humans. 1-to-1, they are better than humans for multiple reasons. Just from a sheer stat point of view, from a sheer presence point of view, like how big they are and how much territory they need to survive, meanwhile humans living in cities, right? 1-to-1, a dragon is actually better than a human. It's just a fact of life. They're literally built different. There's another reason why they're better than humans, but I can't get into that until after the credits. But just remember, there's an extra reason why they're better than humans. And then she gets upset. She like folds her arms, huffs, does. I'm sorry if this is gonna sound misogynist. She does the woman thing of like, oh, I'm mad at you now, and I'm gonna storm away, and you need to think about what you did. I'm not talking to you until you realize what you did wrong and apologize to me, right? And
yeah,
it's like,
that was cringy as shit, and I hated it.
It's like, why would she get upset at that? First off, he is literally a dragon. You guys already know he cannot see things from your point of view. So to get angry and fussy that way is just unrealistic. It's like, what do you expect? And also, how dare you force him to be different? How dare you force him to change to be something he's not? I understand that he is working with humans right now, and so he should try to be a bit more understanding and a bit nicer, and he definitely needs to have some character growth and not be such an asshole to the people around him, especially if they're helping him and trying to be his friends. I agree and understand that. But to try to completely change his point of view, like, hey, everything that you know and believe is a dragon, throw that away. You have to 100% think like a human now. It's not fair and stupid, and it's actually the reason why I generally don't like dragon shifters, especially romances. I do read a lot of xenofiction romance because it's a genre that I enjoy. Unfortunately, there's a lot of straight stuff, so it's like, I gotta skip the sex scenes, whatever. But it's always the dragon or the demon or the werewolf or the alien that has to change who they are for the female protagonist. And that's not fair.
I'm just imagining Bantam behind you with his hand in the air and the other one on his chest, just like the head down, just being like, "Preach, brother, preach." You sometimes when you don't know exactly what you're gonna say, you do like hesitate or minorly stutter or whatever, which is not bad. But holy shit, like you can tell when something's coming from the heart, though.
Hallelujah, amen.
But you're right. It is because Ray reads a lot of books. Like, I mean, in my free time, I'm playing video games. He's reading books. But there are other books that he has read that, as he said, aliens, demons, whatever, romance novels, and it does seem to happen in almost every single one. It's always, well, you know, I brought this. This is not an actual example. This is just me making it up. But like, oh, I brought this demon to a dinner party, and the other guests were unnerved by his behavior, so I scolded him. How dare you act like that in high society? And it's like, bitch, it's a fucking demon. All right. What did the fuck did you expect? You should be getting mad at the other guests for not for being closed-minded.
You guys are being racist to the demon in the room. God damn.
Just because he summoned a live goat and ate it alive in front of you and you're going to get all huffy? Ugh.
So, like, here's another example, and this one's not nearly as bad. This one's actually a little touching, okay? There was a book I read that was a female protagonist, human, that ends up on a planet with Nagas, right? Snake people. Snake men. And she... I don't want to get into the whole story, but she is forced to stay with them and live with them, and has to get diplomatic immunity by marrying one of them, basically, right?
Lucky
and
bitch.
And through the course of the book, they do actually fall in love. Now, but because they're snake men, they they eat like snakes. They have one big meal every couple days or like a week or whatever, and that's it. They are so confused by the fact that she needs to eat multiple times a day in like such tiny little bits, right? At the end of the book, there's a scene where he, quote, sits, he coils up, he sits at the table with her and starts like eating just like small little cubes of meat, like trying to eat like her. And he said, like, that's really touching, that's really nice, like, he's gonna sit and eat with her, like, that's great. But then he says that he's gonna do that from now on forever, that he is no longer gonna eat the way his people eat, and he's gonna do this with her so that she can feel, like, included or something.
That's the
And it's
moment
like,
I rip the book in half.
that's too far. Like, I understand wanting to do that for your beloved, but to completely, like, change your way of life that is determined by your fucking biology is like, come on, that's a bit too far.
Yeah, that's I'm ripping the book in half, or my phone if it's on my phone, and going, yep, fuck this book.
It's like, oh my god, think how much more free time we would have as people if we could just eat once every 5 days. But yeah, whatever. There's a rant on why shifter romance is bad. And for the love of God, stop changing the alien to conform to human society.
Yeah, it's because all these books are written by humans and they don't know anything else. Human
Yeah.
superiority, because clearly we have it all figured out.
Here's another rant, because it says, hey, one of my next bullet point, hey, have a rant on the concept of bonded or fated mates. Like, okay, let's have a rant on the concept of bonded or fated mates. So
Bantam grabs the mic, encore, encore!
I'm trying to remember how exactly came up in this book, because, like, at no point in this book does he think of her as, like, his mate, right? Maybe she does.
He
Maybe
makes
she-
several references about her, about him feeling like he's as close to her as almost as close to her as he was his sister, that he feels the need to protect her, that he enjoys her company, and that he feels alone when she's gone. So I think it's alluded to, but it's not expressly stated.
No, I think it's something that she feels. Like, she feels like he's the one. Our souls intertwined. He's going to be my husband. I think it's from her point of view. But yeah, just like, and it kind of does get alluded to. Like, Bantam, you have to weigh in on this because, again, I have all 4 books in my brain. In book 1, did you get the feeling the author is trying to make it obvious that, yes, Cam and Nico are going to end up together because they are bonded and they're getting romantic feelings for each other?
Yeah, immediately.
Okay, so...
And almost constantly.
Yeah, so, like, their souls intertwined, so they are fated mates. They will end up together. And, like, that's a trope from all sorts of shifter romance novels, right? Especially the dragon ones. It's so much more often with the dragon ones, and I don't know why. But it's like, there is another book series called Scales and Spells? Or Spells and Scales. It's whatever. It's those 2 words, but I don't know what order it's in. Where the idea is dragons exist on Earth. They can just turn into humans, and they have done so to hide because last time they were exposed, they got into a big fight, and that's how the Sahara Desert came into being. Like, they can actually change the landscape with the nature of their fights because of how magical they are. But the dragons are all males. They have to breed with humans to reproduce, and if they fall in love with a human male, they have special magical incubators that allow them to have children with other guys. But the point is, they have a fated mate, they have the soulmate, they have this is the one, I have to end up with this one. And it's actually a plot point in, like, 1 or 2 of the books where the human is, like, resisting it because the dragon's a monster, how could I, like, love a dragon, or whatever, right? And it's like, you get over yourself, that's how. But during the back and forth mental anguish of these books, the dragon is always, like, willing to sacrifice everything. He's willing to do anything for the human. He's willing to pursue the human no matter what the human says or where the human goes because you are my bonded mate. I need to be with you. It's like, this feels like you're robbing the dragon of agency at that point by forcing them to be with somebody, whether they want to be with them or not. And it's why I don't like the concept of soulmates in most anything else. The thought that there's one person out there and, like, you need to find them, it's like, that feels like a lack of agency. This is something you build, not something that you find, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. I will eventually make you read that book, the Scales and Spells one, because it's a great example of what not to do. And, like, we can it'll be just
Sounds like
an
a threat.
episode. It'll just be an episode of us just trashing it because, oh my fucking god. The one thing they did good was, okay, two things. They did two things good. The concept of the Dragon Horde and the way the magic in that world works. The Dragon Hordes were just the dragons like to collect something. One of the dragons collects video games, so he owns every console and every video game ever, including arcade cabinets. Another one just collects musical instruments. Another one collects books, so he's got a Beauty and the Beast style library. But the way the magic works is it's more like alchemy in the sense that you're mixing things together and then infusing it with energy from either yourself or from your dragon or from the natural world. But the things you're mixing together are very mystical, borderline fae things, like the
Concept
first
of sadness with the
no,
smell
like
of rain.
the first dew of winter, or not winter, spring, the first dew of spring, or reflected moonlight on a still lake, or the bitter frost of the exact stroke of midnight on the winter solstice and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, it's kind of neat. I mean, it sounds like flowery
It sounds
bullshit.
it sounds gay as fuck, but it's
It
really
does sound
cool.
gay.
Very rapidly reviews written with I don't remember what stream's trying to reference there. But yeah, my one complaint about this book was Nico does spend a vast majority of the time in human form. It's through necessity. It's because he's hiding from the adventurers who are escorting him to the college, and so it's like it sucks, but I acknowledge it. Like it has to happen. There were just a few times where if I was writing it, I would have made him go into dragon form. Like I think there was one time that he was alone and he could have slept in his dragon form, or it may have been after he came out to the adventures about being a dragon, and so he could have still just slept in dragon form because they were like camping on the road to somewhere. So it's like at least there were a couple of times where he should have been dragon formed. A couple of times where you could have snuck it in there, but whatever. So I will let you listeners know that if that keeps you from reading this book, that each subsequent book in the series gets more and more dragon time and less human time. He never goes full human, so to say.
Which is a win in Ray's book.
In fact, the Bond actually starts tweaking the way that Cammy sees the world. She starts acting a bit more dragon-like, including like subconsciously growling at people when they say something that she doesn't agree with or something.
They did start alluding to that in book 1, and I did like it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the running scene. I mean, aside from the just ridiculousness of that whole scene, I think her hands and like parts of her forearms were starting to grow scales, and her nails became claws. Like she was semi-transforming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like in some of the future books, she actually starts referring to humans as others, like them instead of us. So she stops even thinking like a human at some point. So if your problem is definitely like too much human form, it's not going to be a problem going forward. Go ahead and like read more of the series. Trisnix, will you remind me, did book 1 have the 5-headed dragon dream? Okay, then no, that's a book 2 thing. So I'll talk about that later.
So we should probably wrap up book 1.
I know, we're almost 2 hours, almost. Yeah, alright, so that's a good stopping point. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We're going to go through our normal closeout stuff, where you can find us, what we're doing next time and all that. After the ending credits, I'll probably stick around for another 10 minutes just to really fast mention a couple points from books 2, 3, and 4. Just fun things that I should mention, content warnings like, hey, hold out hope because this happens, right? But just as we close out here, Bantam, just really fast since this is going kind of long, what you have no interest in reading the future books because you just didn't like this one that much. But if you were going to, what do you hope or predict would happen? Like, where do you think the story's going? I think you muted in Discord.
Sorry. I predict and don't hope. Mostly I'm worried that this is going to happen. That he's, you know what? These adventurers aren't really all that bad, and we should get along, and blah 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 blah. Honestly, I would have much rather the book 1 end with before they get to the university that he finally manages to like lure one or two out into the woods and murder them, and well, because like his whole goal is to kill these adventurers, or at least to get back to his whatever. But like he kept throughout the entire first part of the first book, he's like, if only I could get this one alone, I could probably take him, and it's like, do it, kill him. Fucking the whole thing is that you were like, they probably killed my sister. I want to kill them. Do it. Oh my god, I would love to see how the book would turn out, or the next several books would turn out if he actually got his quote unquote revenge. But I foresee that he's, I understand now, and humans aren't so bad, and blah 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 blah, or that the adventurers are like, oh, you were the dragon all along. I guess that makes sense. Well, you're a pretty cool guy, so we'll just whatever. I didn't like the fact that the adventurers looked at the dragon as like an object to obtain, and which is why I wanted them to die even more. I did also hate the fact that the paladin was basically like the emperor of mankind, the way he was described. Fucking silver and gold armor, fucking he can fucking fly. Paladin. He can fucking fly? No, what the fuck is that?
That scene, he was flying because the wizard cast fly on him.
Stupid. It's all stupid. I wanted them to die. Especially the paladin. Especially the wizard, actually. And the rogue was wearing on me really, really quickly. With the constant, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I'm a rogue. I don't trust anyone. And it's like, okay, yeah.
I'll listen to that she gets a lot better in the future books.
I was hoping she'd be a lot 6 feet underground, but okay.
All right, so once again, listeners, thank you for joining us. Bantam, do you have the list of contacts?
Well, the list is much smaller.
So if you want to get in contact with us, like you want to suggest something for us to review, or you just want to like get mad at Ray for his opinions, or just want to join the growing family and just partake in this discussion with us, or you want to sit in on the next recording, like the people that we've been reading some Discord messages from, Bantam, where can they get in contact with us?
So we have an email. Our email, if you'd like to email the show and ask questions or whatever, is wadpodcastmail@gmail.com. We have a Discord. It will be linked in the show notes. And we no longer have a Patreon. We now have a Ko-fi. For first-time listeners, if this is the very first episode you're listening to, why? But our Ko-fi is kofi.com/wadpodcast. We moved to Ko-fi because with the way life has been turning out, recording at a regular intervals hasn't really been feasible, so we didn't feel comfortable taking a monthly subscription.
Yeah, so now it's just a tip jar. If you enjoy it, then, a tip is appreciated. It'll help, like, basically pay for the server of keeping the episodes up, because if I go down to the free version, then it deletes every episode past the last 5, I think. So yeah. I gotta keep paying for that. Also, It helps us buy the stuff that we're reviewing when we don't get like review copies or anything.
Yeah, but I believe that we also, Ray and I both collectively agreed that if we are going to, we do have a lot of writers in our Discord. We have reviewed some of them. If you have written a book and you want us to review it, please, for the love of God, give us a free copy. Because we have to buy 2 of them so we can both review it, and it just it always feels bad when we have to pay for something and it turns out to be bad, or we don't feel like we did the book justice, or whatever. Teresa Nix asks if we have a backup of all the media. Obviously Ray has all of this stuff saved.
Yeah, I have the files that I upload. I do not have the raw files, so if I have to re-edit something because I cut out something that I shouldn't have cut out or whatever, those are lost. I just have, when I finish something and I export it to upload, that's what I keep a copy of. But yeah. So once again, thank you for joining us. And next time, so Bantam just said we have a lot of writers in our Discord. One of them did give us a free advanced copy of their next book. We did review their first book already, and so we moving forward, don't want to do sequels books 2, books 3, books 4, which is why I read ahead so I could do it all in one giant episode info dump right now. Just because there's a whole lot of stuff out there we still need to get into. I want to make Bantam read Scales and Spells. I still need to get Bantam to do Temeraire. We need to do Griffin Generation. I want to do Pike. Then there's a couple other things that I don't know the names of because they're only written, like no audio, that I need to get into also because we've been neglecting non-audioed transcribed stuff. So I want to try to not do sequels moving forward until like the entire series is out and we do a retrospective. But we were given a free advance copy and asked to please read it and review it if possible. And, to show our thanks and to be nice, yes, we're going to do it this time. We're going to do book 2 of the Scales of Fate series by Shaden Barnes called The Scarred Prince. It comes out exactly 1 month from now as of recording. So we're going to read it, we're going to review it, and we're actually going to literally cut that episode in half, 2 different halves. The review half will be uploaded on the 1st of March when the book goes out, and a week later, to give everyone time to read it themselves, we'll upload the other half, which is the us talking about it half.
Yeah. And this was something that the author very, very kindly asked us to do. And he was hoping that we would release the episode in tandem with the book. If you've ever written anything or you're a self-published author, you know how hard it is to get noticed. And you will literally sink into the sea of obscurity on Amazon Books or wherever you happen to. So I thought it would be really nice if we reviewed it, and that way at least a couple, because if you listen to the podcast, you're like, yeah, sure, at least I know Treesenix will.
Right. So for like the 4th time, thank you for joining us. I really am thankful. I love when people listen. I love when people comment because I like feeling that I'm providing a service, even if it's just entertainment. I started this podcast because there was nothing else like it, and I wanted to know, hey, there's a bunch of books with dragons in the title on the cover, but are they actually good? And so, no review service existed. Obviously, reviews for the book existed, but they didn't actually explain how important are the dragons in the book. They'd be like, the writing is wonderful, and this character made me cry. And it's like, that's great, but not really conducive to what I'm looking for. So I like knowing that I'm helping people find new stuff to enjoy. Right? So thank you so much for giving us your time, for giving us a listen. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Stick around after the ending credits song if you want just 5 minutes of me spoiling a couple of key points on the next few books just to warn you about what's coming up. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Alright, so anyone who stuck around, who did not turn off the episode, who did not leave the Discord call, I'm now going to talk really fast, just a little bit about books 2, 3, and 4. So, like I said, he spends more and more time in dragon form. Cammy starts thinking less and less like a human. In fact, she gets the ability to grow wings for periods of time so she can fly on her own. She gets the ability to grow claws and to grow scales so she can become harder to hit. It hasn't happened yet. Book 5 is out. I haven't read book 5 yet. It is heavily implied that she at least wants to turn into a dragon. She wants to. She at one point takes an ability spending like 100 DKP to polymorph because she wants to. It's like you can only turn into animals up to twice your size, but more upgrades could lift this restriction. And when that happens, it's from Nico's point of view, so he's very dense, and being from his point of view, it's not super obvious, but it's really heavily implied that she wants to be more like Nico and wants to be a dragon like him. So fingers crossed, that'd be pretty hopeful. Another thing that it's also kind of heavily implied is at one point Nico has a dream where he sees things from the point of view of a 5-headed dragon, with each head being a different color. Those of you who know D&D know that that's Tiamat, the mother of dragons. The fact that he has a dream from her point of view, and the fact that at one point the god of magic calls him old friend, meaning that his soul is recycled rather than him being a new person. And also, this also explains why in the first book, when he starts fighting the first horror, he says, I am Draconis, right? He just has the instinct to say, I am Draconis, even though in this life he doesn't know what that is, who that is, and obviously is not that currently because there's another Draconis currently out there. It is, to me, it feels like it is heavily implied that he might be like a reincarnation of Tiamat, that he might literally be like a dragon god or becomes the dragon's version of a god, remembering that they don't like the godlings. So that's a fingers crossed, very, very hopeful thing that I hope actually comes to fruition, because that's really cool. Yeah, comrade. That's why I think that's really great that she starts thinking that way. Like I said in the actual recording, like she starts referring to humans as them instead of us, which I think is awesome. Oh, right. One of the points I want to bring up on why dragons are better than humans, like the final point on why they're better, like full stop, you can't argue against it. Dragons are from that world. They were the first creatures born on it. They were there before the gods were there. They were before the humans, before the elves, and before all that. Because the humans, elves, and dwarves are not from that world. They were brought in from another world. They're basically aliens. They don't belong there. This is the dragon's planet. You guys fucking just deal with that. If that's Genshin lore, I don't know Genshin lore. You can explain it to me later if you want. Turns out that Tiamat went planet crusading, trying to expand her domain, and brought back some lesser beings with her, and now they live here, and they become a problem. The Pact gets mentioned at some point in the books, and it's basically a deal that says the Scourge and the gods cannot interact on the material plane. They can only do so through their servants, their cultists and their priests and all that. And the dragons are the Pact Keepers. They are meant to keep the balance and to like fight the Scourge if they show up, to keep the gods from interfering too much and that kind of stuff. But it also turns out that the Pact mentally changed the dragons. So again, that's a content warning for some people. People who value free will as much as I do and hate the thought of being magically manipulated. The dragons were changed by some system-wide magic. That was kind of semi-forced upon them. Nico starts to unravel it towards the end of book 4, so it's not going to be a problem forever, but it kind of alleviates one of the problems I had, which is the dragons don't care. Oh, sister, I was so worried about you. And she's just like, why? Why would you care about me? We're dragons. And like the other dragons that are like, well, if these dragons are taken as slaves, it's their fault. They were weak. They let it happen. It's like that's all because they have a sort of detached lack of sympathy forced upon them by the magic of the Pact. Before that, they had families. They actually like respected the concept of a mother and father and siblings and all that. I guess to rewind a bit, because I don't know how much was in book 1. Matilda was in book 1, right?
Remind me.
Names that's where book 1 ends, is when Matilda gets freed. Right. Matilda was the one of the domesticated dragons, the first one that Nico frees by ripping the collar off. I think book 1 ends with Sirius the mage being like, oh, I gotta clean up this mess now. So a lot of dragons were taken prisoner by humanity, and they were collared, and that collar changed them by like accidentally. The humans didn't mean to. It's not their fault. The collars like slowly siphoned their soul over several generations to the point where these domesticated dragons are considered a different species by the system. They are now considered monsters rather than intelligent beings, and they are called domesticated dragons. They have no connection to the dragon dream, so they don't reincarnate or anything. They're basically literally actually just monsters. Oh, right. So Nico fixes that also, so he starts to end dragon slavery, and he gets the reason why he doesn't kill the humans Bantam is because they join his side. They help him free all the dragons, and it gets pretty amazing later on. Like, I guess super spoiler for book 4, Gelbricht will actually leave his goddess and join Nico and become a paladin for him.
All right, I guess that's acceptable.
Yeah. But so he's going around freeing the dragons, and he wants to find a way to give them their soul back so they can become true dragons. And when he does so, he does it to Matilda first, and she basically calls him father and is very respectful towards him, which is completely out of line with the way that dragons up to this point have acted, because she's not pact bound, because I guess the way she got her soul back or something. I'm not sure exactly why she's outside the pact until he starts to like unravel it, but it kind of just proves and shows that dragons respected and had a society before they were forced into this like permanent state of ennui. The bonomancy, okay, everyone get your giggles out. One of the minor villains that's a stepping stone on the way to the true villain is a necromancer. And when they're fighting, he casts a bone curse thing that lets him puppeteer style control Nico's bones, and is therefore able to force him to move around puppet style and forces him to attack Cammy. Smacks her with like his tail, sends her flying into a wall, anime style, oof, collapses to the floor, can't move, back is broken kind of stuff, right? So that didn't sit well with me in the instance of it happening, but he manages to shake it off pretty soon, pretty easily. There's no like betrayal of trust like what Hiccup had with Toothless, right? So it's not as bad as it could have been, but it's worth mentioning because that is something that, if you're like me, could like really, really grind your gears, right? But yeah, overall, I feel like the book is going in a really good place. I am excited to listen to the audiobook for number 5 in June. I have other stuff to read during my written word time, so I'm going to have to wait till it's on audiobook, sadly. But I'm super excited. I hope that Nico becomes like the equivalent of a dragon god. Not literally because he's against the gods, right? He doesn't want to be a god, but close enough. He's going to become, if Tiamat was the mother of all dragons, he's going to become the father of all dragons, right? I hope, don't know for sure, I hope Cammy becomes a dragon. Even if it's only like, yeah, she can still be human to go and do stuff with her friends, but she has a dragon. Sorry, I got hiccups. She's got a dragon form to be with Nico. Like, that would be amazing, right? And yeah, I think that's really all the major points I feel like need to be brought up to, like, assure you that, hey, the book is going good places, nothing terrible is going to happen, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. Yeah, if you approve of it going in the direction that it is, then that's good.
Yeah, for a Dragon Shifter book, I'm like really excited for the final book to come out. It's like, that should tell you how good the adventure is. Like, go have the adventure, guys. Oh, I guess content warning for some existential dread at one point. Can't remember if it's book 3 or 4. I know that Dilatan is super, super susceptible to existential dread. There is one point of introspection that Nico goes on with, like, all things must come to an end, even the universe will come to an end, and like it's like supposed to like tie into like the monk training that he got because he's got a monk class in his human form, and it's like once he accepts the ephemeralness of reality and like the gods are wrong because they're trying to be perpetual, and like life has meaning because it's temporary, that kind of stuff that personally I don't agree with, but I'm not going to go on a rant about that. That whole chapter where he's going on that like mental journey could actually trigger some existential horror in people if they have issues with that. So there's a little trigger warning for that in book 4 at some point. All right, again, thanks for coming, thanks for listening to me rant, and we'll see you all guys later, okay? Goodbye again.
Bye, everybody.